Ohio Horseman's Council.
On this episode, we talked with Eric, the president of the Ohio Horseman's Council, and he talked about all sorts of great stuff about exciting trail rides and much more.
So enjoy! Welcome to Late Night Riders. I'm Gretchen, and I'm joined by my grandmother, Debbie, Luke, and the president of the Ohio Horseman's Council, Eric.
Hi, Eric.
Hi, Eric.
Good afternoon.
So, Eric, can you tell us a little bit about what the Ohio Horseman's Council is?
Well, we are really a grassroots organization. It started in Ohio in 1972. And in 1972, there were no public bridle trails in Ohio, and there were no horse campgrounds.
Wow.
And a group of horse riders that lived in southwest Ohio, about the time the Caesars Creek Reservoir was being put in, started working with the Caesar Creek Park to establish public bridle trails. And a lot of them had been riding in the area that it's about to be the reservoir. So they were looking for new trails to put in. So it worked. They developed a partnership with the park. They established horse trails, and that caught on. And other groups started forming around the state, and then we formed a state organization around that. So today there's a central state organization. There are 67 chapters in Ohio. We have 3,500 members.
Wow.
Our rule is you can have one chapter per county in Ohio. So we don't have every county in Ohio covered, but quite a few. Each chapter is really independent. Every chapter has their own officers, their own membership list, but all the members of the chapters are a member of the state organization. So the state has a set of bylaws and standing rules, and all chapters and all members must agree to follow the state bylaws and the state standing rules. And then beyond that, each individual chapter can establish their own rules and operating procedures. So you become a member of Ohio Horseman's Council, and then you can pick a prime chapter, or you can be an at-large member, meaning you don't have a chapter affiliation. And then once you establish a prime chapter, you're allowed to join multiple chapters if you wish, though several of our members belong to more than one chapter. So it's kind of two things. It's a public service organization and it's a social organization. So our theme is Horsemen Helping Horsemen. And I think the biggest benefit to being a member is the network that you gain by being a member of this large organization. For example, when I was looking for a horse trailer, rather than just go out and buy one, I talked to several friends of mine who had been horse camping, who had a lot of trailer experience, and they all had advice for me. And it turns out they were all right. Incorporated their advice into my search for a trailer, and I found a really good one, and then added a few things that people recommended that they'd found useful over the years. But like the president of the Warren County chapter said he joined OHC because he didn't know where to ride. And he wanted to ride with other people, and he wanted to learn the horse trails. And that's one of the other parts of the social aspect is many of us will ride together, or like I have a friend in OHC says, anywhere you want to go that you haven't been, let me know and I'll go with you. And she rides all over the state several days a week.
Wow.
So it gives you a connection and a network. The service part of our organization is establishing and maintaining horse trails in Ohio. So most chapters have an affiliation with a state park, a county park, a local park, the state forest, where we volunteer to help with the horse trails. And we've established new horse trails and we maintain the current horse trails. The partnerships can all be different depending on the rules of the park. But like, just for an example, in 2018, we donated the equivalent of $250,000 in man hours and equipment to the state of Ohio in maintaining public trails in Ohio. We also work with the Department of Natural Resources. We meet bi-monthly with a group called Ohio Trails Partnership, which works with Department of Natural Resources and the Ohio legislator to advocate for public trails in Ohio.
Wow.
And we use that interface to help improve the horse trails, to try and get public funding, to help direct DNR's efforts. For example, I met with a park manager who said, I'm a bike guy. I don't know anything about horse trails. Can you find somebody who can go walk the horse trails with me to help me understand how we can improve them? So we found a local member who had ridden those trails quite a bit, put them together. They went out, toured the trails together, and the two of them put together an improvement plan for the park that we're now working on to help with as volunteers.
Wow.
Very nice.
That's so interesting. I did not realize that, and I think it's so wonderful to know that the trails and things, I know that they were, there's volunteer help and so forth, but to keep that going and be able to have the people be able to ride on those trails, I think is so important because, you know, I did not realize all of this that you do. It's wonderful.
Now, is the Ohio Horsemen's Council, is it self-governing within Ohio, or is there a national,
Not chapter, but like
something
association?
higher for the United
Yes.
States?
We are a member of the American Horse Council.
Okay.
So the American Horse Council is based in Washington, D.C., and is primarily a lobbying group for the equine industry. So we,
That
the
is so
Ohio
cool.
Horseman Council, belong to the American Horse Council.
Wow.
And through that membership, we get some benefits, like with vendors and things. We get news, and we use that to help understand what's going on with federal law and to try and advocate things that we all believe are important for horse owners.
Well, my heart is just in this because I know everybody knows how passionate we are about the horses, but to be able to keep this going for younger people coming in and more people that need to come into horses because, you know, we just, you know, we love it so much. That's wonderful to see that there are places that you can find out where to ride with someone, not be by yourself. And there's so much more that goes into this.
We are quite interested in helping young horsemen and riders. Many of our chapters have an affiliation with the local 4-H group. I know in my home chapter, we have 3 4-H advisors who are members to our chapter, and we try to work together with each other. Several chapters put on fun shows for kids and local people. They happen to have a riding arena, and they sponsor the event and help people get together.
What is the typical age range of like members?
Well, we have a family membership, so you can be a member of OHC as a dependent. So I think our youngest member is probably like 6 months old.
Wow.
Our oldest members are up in their 80s. The average tends to be empty nesters in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. As you find these days, most people have all they can handle raising kids to take care of the kids' interests. And me too. I've been a member for OHC for years, but when our kids were growing up, us riding in the woods was not really the focus. The focus was the kids. But then when the kids graduated from college, moved on, got jobs themselves, my wife and I got back into horses again. And we find that many people join in their late 50s, early 60s, where they can now do the things that they want to do. And a lot of them, there's also another group that is learning to ride the horse that daughter left at home when she went to college.
Yeah.
They decide, let's do something with it. Why don't I learn how to ride?
Yeah.
Now, are there more adventurous trails other than maybe some easier ones for kids or elderly?
Oh, there's all ranges of trails throughout Ohio. In fact, on our website, we've got a listing of horse trails in Ohio that includes a basic description and then a detailed map. And I'd say there's everything from fairly level all-weather trails to some trails in Ross County where one of the members said, if my horse isn't on his butt going downhill, it's not steep enough.
Wow. Wow. Are they rated then too, so you know that they're like that?
If you look at the descriptions on the website, there's a text description of what the trails are like.
Okay.
We haven't established a rating system like ski slopes, but it's something in the back of our mind.
Okay. Very interesting. Wow.
Where's your favorite one yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where's your favorite trail yourself?
We ride in Caesars Creek most of the time, and there's a mix at Caesars Creek too. There's some pretty basic trails, and there's ones that are a little bit challenging. And like I volunteered to help maintain the horse trails at Caesars Creek. I had to pull my tractor up one of the hills with a winch one day to make it on its own.
My.
Wow.
So when did you start riding?
I started when I was in my early 30s. So my wife Catherine started when she was 9.
Aw.
We met in college, and then I served in the Air Force for 6 years, so we didn't do much with horses then, but she wanted to get back to her roots, raise her kids, and establish a country location. So after I got out of the Air Force and started my professional career, we bought a farm in Warren County, and we have 12 acres, and she runs a small boarding business, and we got our first 2 horses right after we bought the farm in 1985. And that's when I learned how to ride. And let's say we did it her way, and I'm really glad we did.
That's cute. And what kind of horses do you like to ride on these trails then, if I may ask?
Well, I have a Mustang.
Oh, okay.
His name is Clyde the Mustang. He's very sure-footed.
Nice.
Even-tempered horse, and my wife rides a cross between a Kentucky Mountain and a quarter horse.
Okay.
And both of them do pretty well on the trails. A lot of people like gaited horses. Ours are not, but that might be the next thing to consider.
Oh. Do you you yourselves, do you ride with a specific, like a trail saddle, or do you ride with the people that you ride with commonly, do you see that they're trail saddles, or do you see people that ride other disciplines as well?
Oh, everything. I have a Western saddle that I bought from another OHC member that makes saddles. And he and I are about the same shape, so I bought one of his used saddles. My wife rides a Western saddle. I see a lot of people like Australian saddles.
Okay.
And then a couple of our boarders ride English.
Okay.
And when they go out in the woods, they ride English.
All right.
But I prefer the Western saddle. I also wear a vest that inflates if you fall out the saddle.
Okay.
It's kind of like a personal airbag, and I always wear a helmet.
Okay, that's good to hear. Yep, that's good to know.
Is there anything else you may suggest, when you go along on these trail rides, bringing any protection for bugs or any food or water?
Yeah.
Yes. I always wear gloves. I think it's very important to protect your hands. We always advocate take a good sharp knife with you in case you have to cut something loose.
Right.
It's always good to use bug spray, and everybody uses bug spray on the horses, but in the really buggy months, we also carry a little bug whisk. It's like a 2-foot-long stick with some material on the end that you can swat flies with.
Yes.
So we tend to swat flies on each other's horses and our own. When they start dancing and you're looking for where's the horse fly.
Right.
And I'm a real big advocate of safety equipment, proper riding boots. I would always recommend a helmet. And I like these modern vests. A couple of my friends, I'm not in the club that's used one yet, but a couple of my friends have. And like one of my friends, his horse stumbled and he went over its head. The vest inflated, he hit the ground, got up. Well, that wasn't so bad.
Wow.
And he noticed the cell phone in his pocket was broken in half. Thought, that may have been a little worse if I hadn't been wearing this vest. But
wow.
I don't bounce as well as I used to, and I want to live to be old and still be able to ride.
Where do you find one of those vests at? Yeah. Did you get that on Amazon or something?
They have a website. The brand I have is called Hit Air, and I bought mine at Equine Fair. They'll also have booths at several areas. I know when you go down to the Kentucky Horse Park, like for the 3-day event, if you go into the shopping area, you can find them in there. But it's important to get something like that fit correctly.
Yeah.
So it really makes sense to go see somebody about one and make sure you get properly fit.
So how did you find the OHC yourself, and how did you grow through it to become president of Ohio?
Yeah.
Well, my wife and I moved out to the farm. We got a couple horses, and we knew 2 OHC members. One was a technician at our veterinarian's office, and the other one was an instructor that I met after I fell off my horse once. So just a little story of how I now value lessons. But there's a gentleman named Baxter Black. He's a large animal vet and cowboy poet. And he likes to state there's 3 ways to learn. You can learn from books, you can learn from others, or there's those that have to pee on the electric fence for themselves. that used to be me. My approach to horse riding was throw on a saddle, get on, and go. And I was riding through the woods one day doing a nice little canter and right-hand turns, and I decided I had enough, so I signaled a left turn to my horse, and I went left, and he went right.
Oh, wow.
And I bounced off the trail, got back on, and rode home, and told my experienced horse rider wife about it, and she said, well, what lead were you on when you signaled your left turn? And I said, what do you mean?
Yeah.
She said, you need to take lessons. So I asked her if she could teach me, and she said, well, I've been riding so long I don't really remember how I do it. So you need to go find somebody that knows how to teach riding. All the time thinking of the advice, never try and teach your spouse anything.
Yeah.
So I found a woman that teaches lessons who was also an OHC member. And then shortly after that, my wife saw an ad in the local paper from the Warren County chapter of OHC saying they wanted to start a local mounted search team. And if you're interested, come to the next meeting. So we did, and we helped found the Warren County Mounted Search Team, which
that's cool.
That is really cool. Yeah.
What all goes into that? What all goes into the search team?
It supplemented the first responders. It started because one of the OHC members had a relative who got lost in the woods and after falling off a horse and wound up not making it.
Oh, goodness.
And said, boy, if that person could have been found in time, they could have been helped.
Yeah.
And at the time, Warren County was pretty rural. You know, there weren't a lot of full-time first responders. Most of the fire departments were volunteer fire departments. So a group from up in Medina, who were a sheriff's posse, came down and joined us for a weekend at Caesars Creek and taught us the basics of horse-mounted searching. We developed it a little farther. We had frequent practices with Caesars Creek State Park. We went out and talked to the rangers and said, you know, we formed the search team. Could we practice here? And they said, absolutely. There's 60 acres over here that is not open to the public. You can go there and do anything you want.
Wow.
And we talked to the Warren County Sheriff. The sheriff assigned us a detective as a liaison. The detective gave us lessons in things like how to protect a crime scene. And then we started getting calls from local police, sheriff, when they needed help trying to find somebody. And what we did was really provide speed. It was often in combination with the fire department. Like walking through thick woods on a horse doesn't work very well.
Right.
So you combine the horses who can do a perimeter search trails, with firemen on foot, and you've got a very effective team.
Wow. What a wonderful thing.
That's cool. So did you start on the board for your chapter and then go from there?
I was not a chapter officer. I was the training officer for the horse team, for the search team, and we treated the search team like a committee. So the head of the search team was the committee chair. I was the training officer. And then we did that for pretty actively for about 10 or 15 years. Then our kids really got involved in sports, and I spent every weekend being a soccer coach.
Yeah.
Of riding horses. And then after the kids moved on and we got more active in OHC, one of the Warren County members was the state president, and he asked me if I would serve as the bylaws chair at the state level. I accepted. After about a year of that, the current president appointed me as one of the directors of OHC, so I moved on to the executive cabinet. About a year later, I was elected as vice president. I served 2 terms as vice president. 1 term, I'm sorry. We have term limits. The state officers can serve 2 two-year terms. So as I was vice president, the current president reached his term limit, and I ran for president and was elected.
Wow.
So I've been working at the state level for about 6 years now.
Wow.
Very nice.
That's really cool.
Yes.
So when you're elected, does every chapter vote on who moves up, or how does that work?
They can. We have 2 state meetings a year up just north of Columbus, one in the spring and one in the fall. And we ask every chapter to send representatives to the state meeting. All chapters don't make it, but it's the people that attend that meeting that vote on state issues and elect state officials. So like if we want to change the state bylaws or the state standing rules, we do it at a state meeting. The elections for officers are held at the state meeting. Then we have an executive cabinet that consists of the 4 elected officers, president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. We have 5 regional representatives, and they are elected by the chapters in their region. Those 5 people are on the executive cabinet. And then we have 3 directors that are appointed by the president, and they're on the executive cabinet. So the executive cabinet meets several times a year and establishes the direction that OHC is going in. And then we decide things that different directions we ought to go, and we bring it to the membership at the state meeting for a vote.
Wow. Well, I'm highly impressed.
So what are some
It tends to work pretty well.
Yeah.
So what are some of the benefits of joining the OHC as like someone who isn't a part of it?
I think the biggest benefit is the network that you get by finding a group of friends that all have the same interests that you do. And if you want to learn something, there's an expert somewhere at OHC that understands it. And we're pretty well connected. Like my wife does a newsletter for the Warren County chapter, and that gets pretty wide distribution. And she'll have lots of things in the newsletter about current events. We have state rides at different parks all throughout Ohio where you can get together for an organized weekend. There's organized meals. Lots of people go riding together in that park. We have the state meetings. We also offer a pretty competitive liability insurance package. So if you're a member, you can buy liability insurance for your horses that would protect you in the case that, say, your horse got out and damaged somebody's property or got hit by a car, something like that. It'll protect you. Then there's also several horse equipment suppliers that have an agreement with OHC that will give you a discount on their products. But I think by far the best is the network of just having friends that are other horse people, and then somebody's got to maintain the trails.
Yeah.
Right,
right.
And pretty early, people figured out if I want to ride in the woods, we've got to maintain the trails.
Yeah.
So I find it quite rewarding. Warren County has a group called the Over the Hill Gang because most of us are retired.
It's so cute.
And 2 days a month, we go to Caesars Creek Park and work on whatever projects are the most important. Anything from cutting down trees to fixing drainage, adding gravel. And then, of course, we work with DNR to improve the facilities at local parks and try to advocate with the government to get funding.
So if someone were looking to help, would they reach out to you on your website, or do you have like a Facebook group or something?
Both. We have a Facebook page. We have a state website at ohconline.com. Most chapters have a website, and most chapters have a Facebook page as well. If you go on our state website, there's a list of chapters. So you can look at a map and see where all the chapters are in the state. Or there's a listing, and in that listing is a list of the officers of that chapter and a membership application. And we also have an online membership application where you can join OHC. You can send a check to your local treasurer, or you can use PayPal to join.
So as a member, how little or much can you be involved? There's monthly meetings, correct? And then there's some events that happen throughout.
So there are quite a few people who don't participate at all. They just they appreciate what we do, and they want to support us through their dues. So they join a chapter. There are many of them I've never met. Like my particular chapter has around 180 members, and maybe 25 come to meetings every month and are active. We try to get other people involved, but there are people that work a couple of days a week on OHC issues to ones that just appreciate what we do and want to support us with their dues every year.
Nice.
And we appreciate all of it.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. That's really good, though. So I just from your speaking about the benefits of the membership too, the insurance that you provide, I think is so important, because I think one thing that kind of struck, a note with me was that we have so many people sometimes that don't realize that it's so important to understand, protecting yourself and so forth if a horse gets loose and things like that. Things, today things have changed, and it's not we don't live in the world we did where your neighbor would just go get your horse and bring it back to you. People don't have, the horses like they used to just go out and ride like maybe we did when we were younger, before that. I think that's so good that you provide that, because I think to help people understand and have that education means a lot too. It's you're doing not only, for the Ohio Horsemen's Council and the rides, but also the safety side of it too, which is wonderful.
So we do live in a litigious society, and you're likely to get sued over anything.
I know.
And one thing to keep in mind, even if you damage a neighbor's property and you've got a great relationship with your neighbor, their insurance company is likely to sue you. And you need to protect yourself against that.
Yeah.
And it's often not their choice. It's the insurance company says, we'll take care of this.
Right.
And then you've got to deal with the insurance company lawyers.
Right. So that's a good part of the membership. That's nice.
Yeah, many people join just to get the insurance. And in fact, there is a wonderful event in Lebanon, Ohio, first week of every December. There's a Christmas carriage parade with over 100 horse-drawn carriages.
Wow.
And one of the requirements by the Lebanon City Council is you have to have insurance to be part of that parade. And we get a lot of members in Warren County who join to get the insurance so they can be in the parade.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a good benefit. I mean, it really, really is, because if you do want to do anything like that with your horses, any type of event, that's so good to have. And there are a lot of people that don't realize that. We run across that, hearing those things here in the company quite often about, the other side, but what a wonderful thing that you promote all of that. So
we also use that insurance company for our events. So like when we have like Green Up Day, many chapters had a clean up the park event, and we buy insurance for that day. We buy insurance for our state rides, just to make sure everybody's covered.
That's what we were at one of the meetings locally. Gretchen and I were together, and they were talking about having a ride and making sure that day was covered. So that's probably what they were talking about, which is wonderful for all the people that are there. Okay, yeah.
A call from a lawyer who said, one of my clients is being sued because their horse got hit by a car.
Yeah,
and he wanted to know if I could help him understand horse fence standards, so that he could prove his client met the standards. And I said, there aren't any standards that I know of.
I know.
The best thing is you ask your neighbors and you ask people with experience, and you learn. But I've never seen anything like SAE standards or whatever. Maybe you know of some, but I didn't know of any.
That's the thing that we run into. So the standards are not really set. However, as horse owners, promoting that safety side of it, from our perspective, trying to get the safest fencing that's available, And our flex fence is what we talked to them about, though, is just an option because it's just different than traditional fencing. So the other side of it is that if you've done your due diligence, it does help a lot to show what you've tried to do in, heaven forbid anything ever happens like that. But good point. We see it a lot. Yep.
We've invited several new members over to our place just to see how we do it, and our barn arrangement and fences. My wife's going over to other people's farms to look at what they have.
It's nice.
When people get into horses, there's often a lot of questions of how do I do this, and I want to get a horse, but I don't know what I need.
Right.
That's one of the things where the old-time members really help out. You can find somebody with 30 years experience in keeping horses that have been through a lot of options. Right,
and it does help save a lot if you're a new horse owner or someone looking for newer or better options to make your barn even more efficient. I think that's important. What a wonderful thing to have that kind of wisdom and help.
So what are some of the new things that the OHC is doing this year? New legislation that's passed or different things for horse people?
I think the biggest thing going right now is the Ohio Legislative Trails Caucus, which started in 2017. They designated 2018 as the year of the trail. 2019, though, we're really getting down to business. So the Department of Natural Resources has an Ohio Trail Plan. It had not been updated since 2012. And last year, DNR created a position, full-time position, to review the plan and make a new plan. And Tom Arbor has that position, and he held public meetings all across the state, 5 regional public meetings, to get input from trail people that hike on trails, equestrians, mountain bikers. He had a website where you could download a form and answer questions. He reviewed thousands of answers from people, and then he updated that plan. And the plan is in an overview form right now. As a Ohio Trails Partnership board member, I read the plan and we submitted recommendations for improvement. But there's a section on hiking trails, on biking trails, on water trails, canoe, and we have access to creeks on horse trails. Each had a section. There were recommendations for what ODNR ought to focus on to improve those. And he's created a website that has an inventory of trails in Ohio. And he asked for the public's help on the inventory, which is going quite well now. And then that plan was reviewed by the Ohio Trails Caucus just in March this year. And now the legislators are considering what can we do to improve funding to Department of Natural Resources so they can go get it done. And then as citizens, and in fact, Ohio Horsemen's Council is a 501c4 organization, not a C3, because that allows us to work with legislators. So we are allowed to petition the government. So we go talk to individual legislators, representatives, and senators in Ohio, ask them if they're familiar with the trails, and ask them to please try and support funding and legislature with the DNR, and basically talk to the director of DNR and give her what she wants. And I know our new governor is an outdoor enthusiast, and I see it all being very promising. Mary Mertz is the new director of Department of Natural Resources, and it was a position she asked to serve in. And Governor DeWine gave her that position. So she's not only a very good leader, she's passionate about the outdoors. And it's just a benefit to Ohio. People want to live here if you have good outdoor recreation.
That's right. Exactly. Yep. We've seen a huge bit of growth with our local metro park and the forest that's near us, which is fabulous. The trails are wonderful. They've added in with the horse trails, though, separately, biking trails, and then also tree houses, which is pretty awesome. I mean, people come from all over to see these things. But we tell people we're right near the park. bring your horses and your horse trailer when you pick up your order or whatever, because the park is wonderful to ride in. And our little local chapter does go out and work on those trails and so forth, just like you said. So it's a wonderful thing to keep it going and keep it growing.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the reasons we have a voice with the Ohio government and DNR is because we volunteer so much
Yes.
Time and equipment. And most of our volunteers take their own equipment when they go out in the woods.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I bring my tractor and brush hog and chainsaw, and
That's
many other members do as well.
Yeah, we heard our group talking about that same thing. And, you know, I didn't realize the magnitude of it before this, but a lot of people put in their time and work and like you say, take their own equipment. And it just, boy, I don't know, it means a lot for all of us that ride. Once you know that or realize it, it makes it, I don't know, you see the work that goes into it and appreciate it so much more, too.
I remember talking to one of our 4-H advisors. Her daughter said, "Mom, why do the trees always fall across the horse trail?" And it just kind of seems that way.
Exactly. We were talking about either you get a good jumping horse or you go out there and help, you know, so, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, when you go out and clear trees and you see everything from a 6-inch diameter log to what looks like a pile of jackstraws 15 feet tall.
Jeez.
Right.
You can get 3 trees that all fell together, and you're kind of looking at that with your little chainsaw in your hand thinking, wow.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll enter our next segment, Canter Banter.
Do you love horses and live the equestrian lifestyle? Be sure to check out our brand new blog at www.yourhorsefarm.com. We publish 3 posts per week and feature a free printable equine checklist every month. Yourhorsefarm.com is a great equine online resource, so be sure to share with all the horse lovers in your life. And remember, laugh much and ride often. This podcast is brought to you by RAMM Horse Fencing and Stalls, the one-stop shop for your horse farm. RAMM is family-owned and operated and has been in business for over 30 years. We welcome you to call in and speak with an expert about your next project today at 866-653-8984. Again, that's 866-653-8984.
And we're back. On this segment of Canter Banter, Eric's going to share one of his horse trail riding stories.
Yeah.
Well, you find as life progresses, your interests change, your priorities change. So when my wife and I had kids living at home, riding our horses was not a top priority. Our priority was taking care of the kids. Mm-hmm. And as the kids went to college and got a job and moved on, then we got back to riding horses. But we realized our horses had been pasture pets for about the last 5 years.
Yes.
And they thought their job was to eat grass.
Yes.
We hadn't really ridden much, and we wanted to get back into trail riding, but we were a little concerned, how are the horses going to do at this? And so rather than just throw on a saddle and head for the woods, we hired a horse trainer to come work with our horses, and we basically started over from scratch.
Okay.
So the horse trainer started with desensitization training on the ground. We did ground training for at least 3 weeks before we even put a saddle on. And not only just train the horses, but she trained us to train the horses.
Nice.
So she would do something with us, and we would help. And then, okay, you do it now.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got this little picture of my wife's horse running around our paddock with a tarp tied to her saddle, a feed bag tied to her tail, something else tied to her halter so that it was dangling over her eyes.
Wow.
And she's going in circles on a lunge line and was perfectly relaxed about it.
Oh.
That didn't happen the first time.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. Oh, wow.
So we worked with that, and then we got into riding, and the trainer rode the horses first and really worked on their stopping and turning and controls. And then my wife and I started riding, and it changed from training the horses to riding lessons.
Wow.
And we learned how to improve our riding and our horsemanship.
Nice.
And I don't know that you'll ever get there. I'd call myself a confident rider, but not an expert. And I'm really working to get better at not using the reins and be subtle. And my horse really appreciates it when I'm subtle.
Yeah.
Last weekend we went to a clinic for trail riding where we did the same thing. We started with desensitization training and then a little leading and then riding. And this person has an extensive obstacle course on their farm, and we all went out and rode on the obstacle course.
Oh, I bet that was fun.
But then you find you get your horse out in the woods, and you really find that desensitization training is valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, when a bird flushes up next to you, instead of turning tail and running 100 miles an hour the other direction, the horse just kind of looks at it and says,
Yeah.
But I would really advocate, before you go out in the woods, make sure you've done extensive desensitization training, you know your horse, and your horse knows the rider is boss.
Right.
And after a while, horses get a certain comfort that when you're on me, I'm safe.
That's right.
You're the alpha horse.
That's right.
And we're going to do what you say.
That's right.
But that doesn't come naturally. That comes through training and working with your horse and learning how to do it. And I would really advocate training your horse with a trainer or yourself, but letting the horse know, I'm the alpha horse.
Yes.
And we're going to work together.
Yeah.
Right.
Good wise words.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We hope you enjoyed listening to our podcast and encourage you to share with all your equestrian family and friends. You can tune into the Late Night Riders podcast show every Friday night. Each episode will be uploaded exclusively on YouTube, where you can subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with all of our latest shows. Do you have a topic you'd like to discuss? We want to hear from you. You may email us at podcast@rampfence.com or feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you again for listening.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
And many
Eric.
happy trails. Thank you.